What if one panel discussion could change your financial trajectory forever? In the heart of Hollywood, I discovered an investment path that most of the world was too skeptical to take. Stay with me as I unveil my tumultuous journey with Bitcoin, and while this is not financial advice, it's the tales of the highs and the lows and the unexpected twist, and my advice for those who are starting or thinking about getting into crypto today. Let's go back a little bit to 2018 when I was trying to build up an online business. My friend gets free tickets to this entrepreneur event in Hollywood. The year was 2018. The setting was vibrant. There's a bunch of hustle and bustle, content creators, entrepreneurs, and anybody who was trying to hustle for their success for the future. I liked this event because they kept all the speakers short and they had a lot of them. So you got a lot of content, you got motivational content, and you also got amazing panels. This was hosted by School of Greatness podcaster Lewis Howes. This was thick with anticipation and it was simmering with excitement, trepidation, and just raw ambition. People just wanted to succeed and figure out the best ways to do that. I can still remember the buzz and I can still feel that sense of energy on that Hollywood night. So when you were there, you could hear this underlying hum of 100 conversations of people just networking around me. I was in the middle of a transition, still not really knowing what I was going to do. The business wasn't doing well. I was kind of lost. I was kind of just feeling my way through it, and I didn't come into this with many expectations. So I walk into the main room and silence descends upon the crowd as they announce the crypto panel, and that collective breath that we all held in to try to figure out what is this new thing called crypto and what is Bitcoin. I've only heard it in passing. I heard it was a scam, it was a bubble. This was 2018, so at this time it had its all-time highs and then it crashed from 17,000 all the way down to 3,000. And I didn't know that this moment would be a turning point for the rest of my life. And at the time, I was not worried about crypto. I just thinking, I'm just here, maybe I'll get something out of this. I've been to so many entrepreneur events that they all start to sound the same. They're either motivational content, you just go to network, or you kind of hear the same advice and it just really comes down to your own implementation of that advice at that time. And I remember sitting there thinking, how am I gonna navigate this convoluted maze of trying to get this business to work? I was on an entrepreneurial path that just wasn't working for me and I was just not passionate about anymore. What the panelists were talking about, their passion, their voices resonated around me and resonated within me. Their words were like streaks of lightning in the stormy sky. They tore my veil of skepticism that clouded my mind, that I didn't understand what this is, I don't really care about it, and it got me curious. It was all of these different insights setting off a blaze of curiosity that consumed me. I was standing there on this unseen wild west of crypto, staring into what they talked about as being one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetime, like the invention of the internet. So when I heard that this was one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetime, naturally my ears perked up and the thought was intoxicating. It was a different blend of fear and exhilaration with confusion and a little bit of hesitation. Was crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain just going to be another passing phase? Was it just going to be a dot-com bubble that crashed? So I was captured by this promise of a digital revolution, that I needed to do something and at least get in this and get off zero. And my mind was racing. They were treating this like every other asset, having risk management strategies and approaching it from a conservative standpoint and not a get-rich-quick scheme. Even though they said they already accumulated the equivalent of a small GDP for a small country. And one of the biggest things that we're talking about is if you can survive this bloodbath of a market, you can stay in it until there's regulation, until the markets become more stable. And you will thrive when institutions start coming in this and when governments start to come into this. And this is way before anyone was talking about El Salvador picking up Bitcoin as their currency. This was back when Bitcoin was at $3,000. In my excitement, I was still crazy hesitant because All you hear is all of these things about this being a bubble, this being a scam, and people losing all of their Bitcoin and getting scammed. So I didn't know what to do. I was still drowning in debt, but I was like, okay, based on what they were telling us, I needed to get in this. I tried to figure out where to start. Everything seemed a little too complicated until I figured out you could just buy Bitcoin on Robinhood. So the very next day, literally, I converted my Vanguard account, and then once that cleared, I was going to buy Bitcoin on Robinhood. So my very first lesson in crypto was a lesson I still hold true to today. I'm only willing to invest what I'm willing to lose. At worst case scenario, you can get hacked, the exchange goes out of business, or you just lose all of those funds for some other fluke event. So whatever funds I'm putting into this, I'm willing to lose for the risk and that gamble of the upside. It's calculated risk and they're calculated gambles now, but previously I had no idea what I was doing. Following week, I went on a hike with one of my best friends, and I was talking about everything that they talked about on that panel. I was so excited that the thought crossed my mind, what if I invested all of our wedding savings fund into Bitcoin? This is money that we were accumulating to put into our future wedding so that we wouldn't have to put out credit cards, take out loans like most people do. It was a wild thought, and it was a risk that dwarfed all other risks that I had considered taking before. It had this magnetic pull that felt like it was impossible to resist. The fear was there, and it was always in the back of my head, whispering about worst case scenarios and vivid images of catastrophic outcomes. This is when I learned one of my other lessons: always cap your downside and the risk that you have. What am I willing to lose if this is all just a fluke? I'm willing to just lose the money that I put into my Vanguard index funds because it was barely growing. So what I did was just leave it at that. And with a single swipe up, I went from a cautious observer to a player in this high stakes financial decentralized game of crypto and blockchain. I was untested, it was unpredictable, but I took the plunge, and I chose to view this 3,000 not as a loss, but a bet on my own future, and a future that was reshaped by Bitcoin and blockchain. This jump into the deep end was my first jump into the rabbit hole of crypto and all the new and crazy experiences that I would have later. And you might think, as a beginner, investing in a highly volatile asset like Bitcoin was going to be like riding a roller coaster blindfolded. Chaotic, unpredictable, exhilarating. And in the middle of the storm, I found a sense of peace for myself, at least. It felt like I was this small cog in this mammoth machine, learning how to be a trader and growing my skill sets that I could be using in other traditional assets for the future. And even though on paper my fortunes were ebbing and flowing, rising and crashing, I had a realization. Because of these massive swings, which were unlike the swings in traditional assets and stocks, what happens if I could learn how to trade this? This was the insight, the spark, the realization that I wanted to pursue. What if I could harness this volatility, become a day trader, a swing trader? Instead of being swept by these waves, I could actually learn how to ride these waves and figure out the best way to utilize them. So this is when I dove headfirst into learning the art and the science of trading and technical analysis and all the other things that came with becoming a better investor and a better trader. I devoured YouTube tutorials, learning from seasoned traders and people who quit their jobs full-time and live off of their trading. That is something that piqued my interest, and that was something that I wanted to learn. But this was something that was still just in the background. Life was taking away while I tried to figure out how to make money online and make online business succeed. It was me smashing my head against the wall, trying really hard to figure this out. I was juggling freelancing gigs, grappling with my own credit card debt, and staring down the barrel of my own looming student debt and loans. end. Every day was a battle and this grueling march towards the elusive finish line of paying off my debt and trying to figure out how to actually be profitable online. I was exhausted because I was doing freelancing gigs, working till like 5, 6 a.m. and then going straight to work at 8, 9 a.m., barely getting any rest. I was working hard and I hated it. And the exhaustion just kept creeping in, and it was just this burden and companion that I held on my shoulders at all times. I was pushing myself beyond my limits and it was taking its toll. I was running on fumes. Online business was no longer my passion and what we were trying to achieve at that time. But in the background, I had just been making trades. I was learning to trade Bitcoin, and it was one of the most profitable things that I had ever done with the least amount of work, sadly. And it was a mixed bag of emotions because I really wanted those businesses at that time to succeed, and I was barely doing any work with trading Bitcoin, and I was making a lot more money compared to the work that I was putting into these online businesses. Even though at a time I started to reach a freelancing rate, would break 6 figures if I kept at it 40 hours a week. But I didn't like the work. I hated the work, actually. Was this really what I was working so hard to get to? One day I was reading different books in self-development, and they were talking about what is work that you're doing that other people think is significantly harder. So when I looked at all of the different things that I've gotten into, all the different activities, I realized that my crypto trading was making me significantly more money than everything else I was doing at the time with less work. So that's when I realized I'm going to drop the online businesses, close them, which at that time was heart-wrenching. I really wanted those businesses to succeed. If I focus more of my attention into crypto, becoming a better trader, that this would be a better use of my time potentially. So that's when I went down the rabbit hole of becoming a better investor, become a better trader within Bitcoin. And it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made for myself. So the reason why I'm telling this story is there are people who are coming into this new, coming into seeing the wild prices of Bitcoin and unsure what to do. And this is not financial advice because I am not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. And if I were to do everything over, I would approach it in the same way, is just to get some exposure, but enough exposure that if you see the wild swings, you can sleep at night to invest what you're willing to lose. I'm just going to invest this much, no more, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm going to learn how to become a better trader and better investor because of it. So that ultimately became one of the best investments in myself. And regardless of the price fluctuations and that I ultimately came out positive from that experience, the knowledge that I gained as an investor and as a trader is priceless, that I wouldn't trade for the world. So if you're thinking about what to do, that's my own experiences. You need to judge it for yourself. If you have any further questions, please leave it in the comments below. But I want to tell and teach through my own experiences within crypto because I've had the massive highs to the extreme lows, but crawling my way back out of it and getting out of that hole, those were some of the most important lessons I've ever learned, ever. Please subscribe to get that future content. And as always, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you in the next video.